So one sunny morning, Sunny took her kids out for breakfast at their favorite little cafe just around the corner. It's a familiar spot, nothing fancy, just cozy and affordable. The kids loved it, especially before heading off to school. That morning, the youngest didn't want the coffee that came complimentary with her toast. So Sunny thought, why waste it? Maybe someone else in the cafe would enjoy a free cup of coffee. It seemed like a simple, kind gesture, something to brighten someone's day. But instead of smiles or thank yous, she was met with awkward stares. People looked at her with suspicion, like she was offering something tainted. Was there something in the cup? Had she spit in it? Poisoned it? It hit her hard. Here she was, genuinely trying to do something nice, and people reacted like she was pulling a prank. She felt embarrassed, almost ashamed. That one small act of kindness ended up feeling like a mistake. This reaction sparked a bigger question. Why is it so hard to give and receive kindness nowadays? Psychologist Dr. Sandy Cinnamon from the University of Central Lancashire had been wondering the same thing. She launched a project to dig into what she called the psychology of giving. That is, what makes us generous towards strangers and what gets in the way. Her idea was simple. One good deed could spark a chain reaction, a kindness domino effect. Inspired, Sandy decided to commit 2 weeks to doing small, thoughtful gestures for others. Nothing big, nothing expensive, just genuine, kind acts. And she wanted to observe how people responded. Because let's be honest, most of us like the idea of being kind. We want to think of ourselves as good people. But actually doing something kind, especially for a stranger, that's a lot harder than we admit. So why is it so difficult? Why do we hesitate, even when we know it's the right thing? Sandy's curiosity was originally triggered by a Facebook post. A friend in the US shared a touching story. She'd stopped at a drive-through cafe, and when she got to the window, she found out the car in front had already paid for her coffee. It made her entire day. And that simple act stuck with Sandy. She was fascinated by how one small gesture could lift someone's mood for hours, even days. It reminded her of the butterfly effect. One tiny flap of wings can cause a storm half a world away. Digging deeper, she found that the idea of paying it forward wasn't new at all. In fact, it had deep roots. In Naples, Italy, there's a long tradition called caffè sospeso, where someone buys an extra coffee for a future stranger in need. It's a small but beautiful custom. Even Benjamin Franklin believed in it. When he lent money to a friend, he told him not to repay him directly. Instead, when he met someone else in need, he should pass the same amount forward. "This is a trick of mine for doing good with a little money," Franklin wrote. Today, the idea of giving has spread across the world and the internet. Google "pay it forward" and you'll find thousands of feel-good stories. Michael Norton, a researcher at Harvard Business School, took this even further. He conducted studies proving that people who spend money on others tend to be happier than those who only spend on themselves. And it's not just a Western phenomenon. Norton found that this pattern holds true in over 130 countries, from the US to Uganda. Whether rich or poor, no matter the continent, people who give feel better. And it's not just emotional. There's evidence it can actually improve your health. Cinnamon points to a study of women in their 30s. Those who volunteered or gave to charity had a 16% lower risk of serious illness compared to the average for their age group. The theory? Giving reduces stress. Less stress means a stronger immune system. It's like a psychological booster shot. Giving also boosts social connection. When you do something nice, even just giving someone a compliment or holding the door, there's a moment of shared humanity, a little spark of meaning. You feel like you matter, like you're making a difference. It gives you a reason to get up in the morning. That was the theory. But in practice, Sandy found that creating those little moments of kindness wasn't so easy. She gave herself a challenge. For 2 weeks, she'd do one good deed a day. but it had to be something small and cost less than £1. Her first act was simple. Back at her neighborhood cafe, just like Sunny, she had a cup of coffee her child didn't want. She tried to offer it to someone nearby. Again, awkward stares. No gratitude, no smiles. It felt like rejection. All she wanted to say was, "I'm just trying to be kind." But the room seemed to say, "We don't trust you." So she changed her approach. Instead of just offering it, she added context. "My child didn't want this coffee. Would you like it?" That one sentence made all the difference. People still sometimes declined, but now they smiled. They thanked her. The suspicion was gone. One woman, Rhodes, took the cup and later passed along her own act of kindness later that week. What Sandy learned was this: we're not unkind, we're just wary. We've been taught to be careful around strangers, and that initial skepticism, it's strong. Throughout the next 13 days, Sandy tried different acts of kindness. She offered someone an umbrella, paid for someone's parking, let someone cut ahead of her in line, and each time, the first reaction was doubt. Not until she explained herself, gave a reason, did people lower their guard. Looking back, she realized that mistrust is deeply rooted in us. From a young age, we're taught, don't talk to strangers. Strangers can be dangerous. That fear lingers, even when the stranger is holding out a gift. Still, there were moments where her kindness broke through. Moments where she saw someone's day visibly brighten. Moments where she knew she made a difference. And those were the ones that made everything worth it. Research backs her up. Over the past few decades, empathy levels have dropped dramatically. Studies show that today's generation scores 40% lower in empathy tests compared to people born in the 1970s. Maybe we've just forgotten what it's like to be kind, or to accept kindness. Maybe we've become so focused on ourselves, on survival, on success, that we've lost sight of something simpler, something better. But Sandy believes we can change. She believes we can start a movement, a kindness movement, one small act at a time. Sure, some people might say that sounds cheesy. A kindness movement? Really? But Sandy argues that it's exactly what we need right now. In a world so full of negativity, judgment, and mistrust, small moments of goodness can be revolutionary. Yes, bad behavior spreads like wildfire, but so can kindness. Of course, critics are quick to question the authenticity of these random acts of kindness. Isn't it all just performative? Are people being kind because they truly care, or because they want likes, shares, or a pat on the back? Sandy's answer? Maybe at first it feels artificial. Maybe it's awkward. Maybe we do it out of curiosity, or even just to try something new. But that doesn't mean it doesn't work. In fact, studies suggest that repeated kind actions, no matter how small, can actually rewire our brains. Over time, what starts as a challenge becomes a habit, and that habit can become part of who we are. It becomes our nature. That's what character researcher Dr. Sonia Lubomirsky at UC Riverside has found. Her studies show that people who are encouraged to do acts of kindness again and again begin to develop more altruistic personalities. They don't just do kind things, they become kinder people. It's a ripple effect. Even the most extraordinary acts of heroism often begin with small, everyday choices to help others. When people step in during a crisis, risking their lives for strangers, it's not because they were born heroes. It's because they've trained their hearts and minds to be attuned to the needs of others. And that kind of mindset doesn't come from nowhere. It's built over time. For Sandy, that belief in the power of giving became personal. As a clinical psychologist, she began introducing the idea of kindness into her therapy sessions, especially for patients dealing with depression. She started suggesting small acts of generosity as part of their treatment. Not as a replacement for therapy or medication, but as a complementary practice, something that could help people feel more connected, more valuable, and more alive. She explained it like this. People with depression often struggle to find meaning. They feel invisible, disconnected, or like their lives don't matter. But doing something kind for someone else, even something tiny, can flip that script. It's a way of saying, you matter. And because you matter, someone else matters too. She was careful though. She knew this kind of exercise had to be done gently. You can't just push someone struggling with depression to go out and change the world. That's overwhelming, and it could backfire. So she gave them small goals, tiny steps: smile at a stranger, compliment the cashier, hold the door, send a kind text. Things that don't require money, things that don't require energy they might not have, things that are safe. And she found that those small wins could build momentum. Because when someone smiles back or says thank you or simply acknowledges your gesture, it can light a spark inside you. A spark of connection, of meaning, of hope. Her advice? Start where you are. Start small. And start with what feels safe to you. Don't rush out to hand out free hugs on the street corner unless that feels right to you. Start with eye contact, with a warm word, with generosity toward people you already interact with, your barista, your bus driver, your neighbor, because sometimes those are the people who most need to feel seen. And here's the thing, those small acts, they're often the ones that stick. One of Sandy's favorite stories from her project wasn't about a grand gesture. It was about a moment at the grocery store. She let someone cut in line. That's it. The person looked stressed and in a hurry, so Sandy said, "Go ahead. You seem to need it more than I do." The woman didn't just say thank you. She looked stunned, like no one had ever done that for her. Like this one act had cracked open her tough day just a little bit. That moment, it didn't cost Sandy anything, but it made someone else's day. And later, Sandy saw that same woman holding the door for an elderly man with a cane. The kindness had already started to spread. That's the beauty of it. When you give, it doesn't end with you. It moves, it multiplies. And if it sounds idealistic, well, maybe we need a little more idealism. We live in a time when everyone seems to be fighting for something, fighting to be heard, fighting to be right, fighting just to survive. But what if we paused the fight for a second and reached out? What if kindness wasn't just a feel-good moment, but a tool for resilience? Because the truth is, kindness doesn't just help the receiver, it strengthens the giver too. It creates emotional armor. It helps you feel more grounded, more connected, and more human. And in a disconnected world, that matters. It matters a lot. There's another powerful layer to this. When we do something kind without expecting anything in return, it reclaims something sacred. It reminds us that we're not just economic units, not just consumers, not just people trying to get ahead. We're humans. And being human means we have the capacity to care for one another, just because. It means we can create meaning in small, intentional ways. So maybe it's time to bring kindness back, not just as a trend, but as a way of life. Because as Sandy says, sometimes kindness is the reward, not the thanks, not the applause, just the act itself. That moment when you offer a little piece of light into someone's dark day. That's enough, and honestly, that might be the most powerful thing we can do for each other right now. So where do we start? According to Sandy, the very first thing you have to do is get comfortable with awkwardness. Yeah, awkwardness. Because the truth is, offering kindness to strangers often feels weird at first. You're putting yourself out there. You're risking rejection. You're breaking the unspoken rule of keep to yourself and don't bother anyone. But that's exactly the point. You need courage, not huge, heroic courage, but the quiet kind. The kind that helps you look someone in the eye and smile. The kind that nudges you to hold the elevator or say thank you like you mean it. Sandy says, set the bar low when you begin. Don't pressure yourself to do something dramatic. Don't try to impress anyone. Just do what feels doable. A warm greeting, a patient ear, a helpful gesture. These small things add up. They build confidence. They build connection. And slowly, over time, they shift something inside you. They make kindness feel normal again. One of the simplest and most powerful tips she offers? Start with the people you see every day. Not strangers, not far-off causes, just the ordinary folks who cross your path. The mail carrier, the security guard, the grocery clerk. These people often feel invisible, overlooked, ignored. But when you acknowledge them, really see them, you offer something rare: recognition, respect, humanity, and people respond to that. Sandy discovered that these everyday kindnesses were actually the easiest to offer and the most warmly received. No defenses, no suspicion, just two people meeting in a moment of shared decency. And that, she believes, is the sweet spot of the kindness movement. Now, she's written a book about all of this. Her hope is that it will serve as a gentle reminder that being kind doesn't always require deep pockets or big gestures. Sometimes, kindness is the quiet choice. The ordinary one, holding back judgment, letting someone merge in traffic, giving someone the benefit of the doubt, or simply choosing not to add more noise to someone's already difficult day. These little decisions might not get headlines, but they matter. They matter a lot, because the world is already full of harshness, suspicion, and division. What it needs is softness, grace, room to breathe. And here's what's interesting. Science is showing that acts of kindness don't just feel good, they change your brain. They activate regions associated with reward, connection, and trust. They boost serotonin and dopamine. They lower stress hormones like cortisol. Basically, kindness is like a full-body, feel-good prescription with no side effects. And just like muscles, these neural pathways get stronger the more you use them, which means the more you act kindly, the more natural it becomes. Soon, it's not something you have to think about, it's just who you are. That's the real magic of it all. But maybe the biggest takeaway from Sandy's experiment and this entire journey is that kindness doesn't need a reason. You don't need a reward. You don't need recognition. You can be kind simply because you can. You can start right now. No need to wait for the perfect moment. No need to wait for a sign. Just take the next opportunity that comes your way and say, what's the kindest choice I can make right now? It might be something tiny, unnoticed, even unreturned, but it will matter because someone out there needs it. And maybe, just maybe, that kindness will spark something in them and they'll pass it on, and then someone else will, and then someone else. That's how it grows, one quiet moment at a time. So here's the challenge. Be the one who starts the chain. Be the person who makes kindness the default, not the exception. It might feel strange at first. It might not always be easy, but it will always be worth it. Because in the end, the smallest good deed can have the biggest ripple. You never know whose life you might change, even if it's just a cup of coffee someone else didn't want. Thanks for watching. If this story moved you, inspired you, or even made you think a little differently about how we treat each other, give it a share. And maybe tomorrow, start your own chain of kindness. No pressure, just one small act. And if you've got a story about a moment when someone's kindness changed your day, drop it in the comments. Let's keep the ripple going. See you in the next video.